And we are live. Hello. Hello. Welcome to Torn Book Club. I see some folks are already in the chat. Temple is saying, "Start sooner. I am in need of nerdy book fun." Well, we aim to please. This week we have a guest, my friend Bin Lee. He is a writer and director, particularly of this movie called Office Ninja, which I helped do the DVD for.
Yes, he was very instrumental in making a very kick-ass DVD.
It's a fun movie. What's the website? It's Office Ninja Film.
I think it's the Office Ninja Movie.com.
Okay. People are saying they can't hear us.
Oh. Hello.
Well, someone can hear us because they clearly heard me say your name. Oh. Okay, Temple was having a problem. Like, okay, good. I don't need to restart the podcast. Take two. Okay, we're good. So, as you can see, if you're looking at the display of books here, it's a little different because I just came back from Philadelphia and brought back a lot of my collection with me, and part of that is, I believe the technical term is buttload of Tolkien books. So down here we got a bunch of the history of Middle Earth. We got Book of Lost Tales. We've got the extensive War of the Ring history, and the annotated Hobbit over here. So lots of cool Tolkien books, and I'll be looking at those sporadically throughout the next year or so. I've read most of them already. So I also have this special find, which I posted about on our Facebook page. This is my own personal screenplay of The Lord of the Rings, or part of it anyway. I started writing this back in 1993, and when I first read the books, and basically toyed with it for many years, and then they announced the movies, and I stopped.
Well, they're rebooting everything every 5 years now.
Yeah,
so that will be the one that will.
This could be the Lord of the Rings reboot in 20 years.
I say we get this going by having a live stage reading.
Yeah,
we'll have all the celebrity friends we know.
This needs to be rewritten. This is terrible. This is a terrible screenplay. This is 95 minutes.
Hey, it's a humble start.
It's a humble start, sure. This is 95 pages, which is roughly about an hour and a half of screen time. They don't even get out of the Shire in this running time. Like, they are still at the edge of the Old Forest when this finally leaves off.
So this is going to be like the Ken Burns is like 20 hour.
Yeah, this is
40 hour.
Actually, a Ken Burns style documentary on the War of the Ring would be really cool.
Well, because then you could get into like the inside of all the characters.
Yeah.
As like, as yeah.
Well, I mean, we already have like the very secret diaries of everybody, so you can sort of work that into it. Still the prettiest, still not king. But yeah, this thing actually has like a very long depiction of the Battle of the Last Alliance, which is the big battle at the beginning of The Lord of the Rings with Isildur cutting off Sauron's finger. And it's very long and full of just awful dialogue. I think there is one point where Elendil actually says, "This will be a day long remembered."
Hey, it's very, very important.
It is, but I'm like, oh god, I was really into Star Wars, wasn't I?
As long as you don't have somebody saying, "I've got a bad feeling about this."
I don't think I do. I really don't know. But yeah, this is a ridiculous screenplay because it's almost a word for word like rewrite of the entire book. So I mean,
Oh my god, look at that block of dialogue right
yeah,
there.
everybody speaks in huge
Good
monologues.
freaking God.
Look at this. And like this is just Gandalf like telling Frodo about the ring. I'm like, that can certainly be pared down in some way. And it keeps going. Look at this. It keeps going.
You even tried to like
It's
intercut like action going on.
yeah. And then we have the Smeagol Deagol scene. Oh god, this is ridiculous. If I can find a bunch of people who are like Shakespearean actors, we could probably do something with this.
Or we do like a drunk history type of reading.
Or that. Yeah.
You know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. So, as you can see, we are talking about adaptations because this is adaptation month. The reason it's adaptation month is because we will be experiencing the last Tolkien adaptation we are likely to see for another 30 years, give or take.
Probably.
When Tolkien's work goes public domain in 2043.
That's assuming if no one changes the bloody copyright laws.
Could happen. And also, I don't know whether or not Christopher Tolkien is also an author on it because he edited most of the posthumous work, like Silmarillion and the extensive history of Middle Earth. If that's the case, then we have an even longer wait. But yeah, 2043 at the earliest. So we might see like the Silmarillion digital download to right into our cerebral implants, which we will all have at that point.
Yes, I would demand it.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yep.
So because it's adaptation month, it's adaptation month because we're going to be having The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies comes out in a week and a half, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm excited. I got my tickets.
You already got your tickets for opening night?
I've got my tickets for even before opening night. That's right. Yeah,
Humble brag.
Yeah, I just scored me a pass to a screening on Thursday.
Nice.
So by next episode, I will have seen the Battle of the Five Armies.
Now the question is how many times?
Well, just the one.
Right.
Well, because it's next Sunday, I'm not seeing it again until next Monday for the Monday marathon of all three movies. And then the next day for the first official single screening of Battle of the Five Armies. But next week I will have seen it once. The following week I will have seen it 3 times and can probably get my thoughts together a little bit better. But yeah, so that's it's gonna be a fun few weeks. We've got Peter Jackson is gonna get his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on Monday. The official premiere in Hollywood is on Tuesday, and we've got a couple of our staffers, Keely and Feely from Happy Hobbit, will be on the red carpet once again interviewing everybody.
Awesome.
And then a little bit of a lull, and then the movie opens. Too much cheers, jeers, and tears.
Sounds about right.
But I will say, like, we've had a number of staffers who have already seen it, and many of whom have been sort of critical of the Hobbit trilogy so far, and they really liked it. So
that sounds good.
That gives me hope. It gives me hope that this whole journey that we have been on for the last 15 years will end on a high note. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And next week I will talk about the Battle of the Five Armies a little bit. Not too spoilery. I'll try to keep spoilers to a minimum. Anything that was in the book is not a spoiler, okay? I will it's 75 years old. You should have read it at this point. Anything that's new in the movie, that's just for the movie, that I will keep to myself.
So that's like mainly like the Evangeline
Lilly's
character, especially.
Yeah, Tauriel, anything that happens with her, anything dealing with the various character deaths There will be a few that we do know of. Any details with the battles? Because it looks like a lot is changing, at least from what I can see from the trailers. So yeah, looking forward to that. It's gonna be crazy at Torn over the next couple of weeks. Because Justin and Cliff on Torn Tuesday, they're going to be talking all about it, and I'm sure it will be a very interesting conversation between the two of them. They have not seen eye to eye on this trilogy for the last two movies.
So they're going to have their own Battle of the Five Armies.
Yeah, they're going to have their own battle going on there. And Light of the King is saying that she will be at the premiere to hang with the fans, and I will probably be there too, hanging with the fans, maybe, hopefully, if I can get over there in time. Eru Vondi is here. Hello, Eru. Welcome. So yeah, adaptations, and since it's also December, we have a new book of the month. And in light of it being adaptation month...
Wait, actually, before we do that,
yeah.
Wasn't there some Torn...
We're going to get to that.
Okay,
we're going to get to that, don't worry.
I should not be... Yeah. This is your podcast.
Our book of the month for December is The Martian by Andy Weir. And the reason I chose this is because it is a soon-to-be adaptation. The book is actually being shot right now. The movie for it is being shot right now. It's directed by Ridley Scott, and it's starring Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, Kristen Wiig, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Jeff Daniels. It's like an all-star cast. It's going to be really good. It's about it's about a man who is on a mission to Mars, and something goes wrong. They have to abort, but he gets left behind, and he has to spend a year and a half trying to figure out how to survive on Mars.
So it's a little Castaway on Mars.
It's a bit of a Castaway on Mars sort of deal. I've been trying to give people warnings that since this is sort of an all ages podcast, the book that we are reading this month does have quite a bit of coarse language in it. Nothing overly vulgar, like nothing gross or anything like that, but there are quite a few F-bombs dropped in this book.
Okay, but nothing spoken in Mordor.
No,
Okay.
Nothing
We would never
spoken
go
in
that
Black
far.
speech. No.
That's probably my phone.
Is that you? Okay.
Yeah.
Temple saying, I got to start on the book. It's really interesting. I like it a lot. And actually, I have to be honest, The Martian is probably my favorite book that I've read this year.
Wow.
Because it's about something that I am a true nerd about, which is space. And I am a total space nerd. And so because of that, we will be talking about space this week.
Space?
Space talk.
Welcome to Space Talk.
With Josh and Ben. I'm a huge fan of basically anything having to do in outer space, anything in books or movies, and I brought you on because we were going to talk about the big space movie that came out earlier this year, which is polarizing, to say the least.
Yeah, that's fair.
People have various opinions about this, and many don't see eye to eye on it, but that movie is Interstellar. Which I have to be honest, I sort of went back and forth on this movie. Like, I loved like the first 2/3 of it.
Okay.
And then it went in a direction I did not like.
Okay.
But I loved the use of space. I loved the depiction of it. But yeah, I was not too thrilled with where it went in the end, and it took me out of the movie, and then I began nitpicking everything in it, and then sort of realized, okay, I need to take a step back here and not be as harsh with the movie, because I did like it for the most part. I just didn't like the ending.
Now, are we going to be able to go? Is it okay to dive into spoilers? This movie's been around for almost a month now. I believe.
I think it's okay to talk about spoilers. I Stole the One Ring is saying, "Is Josh our Captain Kirk? I'm Captain Picard. How dare you?"
Wrong series.
But I mean, what did you think of Interstellar?
So, overall, I enjoyed watching it once. I got to watch it in IMAX. I don't know if you watched it in that.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
I did. Oh,
because
yeah.
I think that helps make the experience a little bit more. It increases because it's not just the size of the IMAX cameras they were using, but also the sound system. Because the rocket noise.
That was intense.
I did not know a movie theater could shake like that. Like, I thought I was in a Star Tours. Like,
Yeah, that was intense, and this was one of the technical issues that I had with the movie was, and this is apparently how Christopher Nolan intended it, was to have various pieces of dialogue be overpowered by all the ambient sound.
Oh.
And so when I went to see it, there were certainly points in the movie where I just could not hear what they were saying.
Yeah.
And that kind of took me out of it a little bit. And I realized that was his intention now. He said as much. But I'm like, I don't feel that was a good narrative choice.
Yeah, it's tough because you don't want, like, the most important part, get disrupted or a very key dialogue or anything like that.
And that's just it. I don't know if it was key dialogue. I don't know if it was just them just chatting.
Because we couldn't hear it
we couldn't hear anything. And not that I wasn't able to follow what was going on regardless. I just didn't like... I didn't like that detail.
Right. Yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was all right. I felt like the scientific accuracy of it, which I know a lot of people are sticklers for. I thought it was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Given, in the from a cinematic standpoint, I thought those were pretty sound, actually.
Yeah. I mean, there were certainly, like, bits where I sort of scratched my head and sort of went, yeah, I don't think so. Like,
yeah.
Like, them, like, when Matthew McConaughey and Matt Damon are fighting on the planet, and Matthew McConaughey's visor gets cracked.
Oh, yeah.
And he's still able to struggle and fight and get himself back to back to the camp. I'm like, nah, I sort of feel like you would probably asphyxiate and die.
Possible. I mean, did they... I forgot, did they mention was there no oxygen on that planet?
I think it was, well, I mean, clearly it was not hospitable enough of an environment for them to not wear a spacesuit.
Right, I mean, true. I mean, we just don't know, like, in that theoretical world, like, could a human survive for, like, 5 minutes while doing heavy physical exertions?
I think the way he described it was it's less hospitable on the surface, but more underground, underneath, which turned out to be a ruse anyway.
Right.
So,
and actually, yeah, the whole Matt Damon part, I think, was actually bugged me more. Was that your part, or was it in the black hole part?
The black hole part really bugged me.
Okay.
But I mean, the Matt Damon stuff. First of all, I felt like it was an unnecessary cameo. I felt it was unnecessary for them to clearly hide the fact that Matt Damon was in this movie until they revealed him halfway through. And granted, he's only in there for, I think his scene is probably about 10 minutes total.
Probably, yeah.
But I didn't feel it was necessary to like hide that. Like I didn't feel like you had to that needed to be a surprise. Like that felt like a J.J. Abrams type misdirection.
I see.
He loves to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, for me, it was actually spoiled for me already that he was in the movie the day before I was reading a review.
Oh, okay.
And so I wasn't too surprised. I was like I was looking for it. Is like once I realized, oh, they're on that planet. Oh, okay, I know who this is. But how they use that character bugged me.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, for me, it's like part of it was I actually did not quite understand what his motivation was not presented clear enough to me for some reason.
I didn't I was okay with his motivation. What I didn't like was that nobody else was figuring out that he had actually gone crazy. Like when he says to to Cooper, Matthew McConaughey's character, he's like, "Well, we have to go out to this isolated area away from the camp. Just follow me. Let's go by ourselves." And I'm like, why are the red flags not going off? why are you not like hearing sirens in your head? Because this guy has just spent like half an hour waxing philosophical about like nihilism and the futility of life, and I'm like, okay, this guy is clearly out to kill you.
That's probably a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's an interesting part because when rewinding a little bit earlier, when McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, and that Wes Bentley's character, when they're on the title planet, they stay too long. I actually expected, I forgot the actor's name, but the black dude.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Him to actually act a little bit more weirder because he's been isolated for 23 years, and we know for a fact that humans, as a social species, we have trouble handling isolation for even a month.
Yeah. Now he did say that he would put himself into cryosleep.
True.
Every now and then to sort of stave that off, and we don't know the extent to which he did that. So that's possible that that's what happened.
Right. So, I mean, if he was... And I actually don't know how long Matt Damon was on that planet.
He was on for at least 23 years, probably longer.
Right. So his behavior should have been even more, for lack of a better word, weirder than how the black character appeared.
Yeah. And this was the other narrative problem that I had. Wes Bentley's character, he's pretty much there only to die.
Yep.
He contributes nothing to the expedition except to die on the giant wave planet.
Right, and to drop a big giant, like, as if we didn't figure out already that, I think he mentions, like, how much Hathaway's character likes the Edmonds
she's in love with Edmonds.
And that's the other little sticking point that I had trouble with was the lack of... I mean, Jessica Chastain's character is fantastic, but Christopher Nolan, for the most part, he doesn't make compelling female characters.
Not really. And this is an interesting aside. I have Jonathan Nolan's original screenplay.
Okay.
And in that, Murph is actually a boy.
Okay.
Wow. Now I haven't finished it, so I don't know how far it goes with that, but at least the beginning parts with Murph as a kid are pretty much like scene for scene, word for word how it was in the movie, except it was a son rather than a daughter.
Right.
And really the dynamic is not that different.
No.
Between the two, except I will say Murph's reaction to Cooper joining the mission, it makes a little bit more sense in the original screenplay than in the movie, because I sort of felt like Murph like went a little too like, you're gonna abandon me and you don't love me, and I think they went too far there.
Okay.
In the original screenplay, Murph basically packs up his things and he's like, I'm going with you. And he's like, no, you're not. He's like, but I'll be back, don't worry. But he's more accepting of that.
All right. Okay. Well, that's also not so great, because then again, it's like going with kind of a cliche that, female characters are more
too emotional.
Yeah, too emotional.
Which, I don't like that.
I mean, it happens, but it's a tired trope, basically.
Yeah, it's a very tired trope. I mean, I met plenty of men who are way more emotional than women.
And yeah, so when Anne Hathaway, her main scene, her main decision is all based on love or romance. Again, it's like I kind of rolled my eyes on that.
Well, this was the big eye roll for me, because I felt like, and in the black hole, like they sort of basically try to say that love is a tangible force in the universe unto itself, which is a wonderful sentiment.
Yep.
But scientifically, way inaccurate.
Well, we just haven't proved it yet.
Yeah.
It has not shown up in any of our evidence whatsoever.
Right. I mean, it's a motivator for sure. And I mean, we see that with Anne Hathaway's character. We also see that with how when McConaughey enters the black hole, which I have real problems with, but we'll get into that later.
Sure.
How his he loves Murph, and so his fixation on Murph basically puts him into this space where he can visit Murph at any point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can sort of see that as like his subconscious sort of creating the Tesseract around him, and focusing on that. But again, that's a subconscious focus. That's not love itself being the guiding light.
Mm.
Let's see what's going on. I'm checking out the chat. A lot of people have been talking about tribbles.
Okay.
There was some Star Trek talk going on there, and last thing I saw was something about a tribble cannon, which scares the bejesus out of me.
I don't think Space PETA would be in favor of a triple cannon.
Probably not. Although, the Klingons would be all for it. They hate those things.
Right. So maybe they're the ones who invent
the cannon. The Klingons would have the triple cannon.
Right, very true.
Because you know what? F tribbles. Which I really shouldn't say.
How
because
dare you, sir?
I am friends with David Gerald, who was the writer of the original Trouble with Tribbles episode. And so I have to play nice. And of course, I love the Tribbles, and he's a great guy. So
I see.
Mm-hmm. I'm not joking. David Gerald is a wonderful man.
That part is true.
Mm-hmm. and I do like Tribbles. They are cute. And terrifying. What? They're tiny little. They're nothing but purring little furballs that do nothing but
they
eat
clog
and
up
breed.
your bloody ducts and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how Interstellar begat a tribble conversation, but
because they were talking about it in the chat. I think because they were talking about the Enterprise for a while, and it just sort of devolved from there.
Well, that's true. You did call yourself Picard. That's
because they were calling me Kirk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I did not miss. I Stole the One Ring and saying, "Too bad you missed that talk." I didn't miss it. I saw it happening, and I was like, "Okay, I don't want to distract from our Interstellar conversation just yet."
We're just having two completely different conversations happening simultaneously.
That's what happens.
Because
It's that's the internet
you
for
can,
you.
You can have multiple timelines happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us back to the Tesseract in Interstellar.
Right. So it sounded like you have a lot of trouble when Matthew McConaughey was in the black hole.
Well, this was sort of where the physics of it fell apart for me.
Okay.
Because the black hole and the Kip Thorne, the physicist who was a consultant on Interstellar, he goes into a great level of detail as to how the black hole works and all that stuff. And one of the things he says about it is he talks about the accretion disk around it, which is, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's the big disk of light that's spinning around it. And he describes, he gives a lot of stats on it. And this is where it falls apart for me, because we see the Endeavor, the ship, actually do a slingshot maneuver around the black hole at one point, and that's what causes him to go into the black hole and everything.
Right.
But the way he describes the accretion disk is that it is as hot as the surface of the sun.
Okay.
And is spinning at 99.8% of the speed of light. So that means if you were going to do a slingshot maneuver around that black hole, you would be vaporized.
Most like, well, I mean, unless they freaking found a way to travel to Saturn in 2 minutes, so maybe...
Well, no, they didn't. They had to go into cryosleep. They had to travel for a couple of years.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. But I mean, I was fine with that. For me, and really that I found out there's actually different ways of spaghettification. So
yeah,
the one thing I always have learned, especially from listening to Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson's Star Talk Radio podcast,
which is a wonderful podcast. If you're not listening to it, you should.
Yeah, anything related to space and even science in general, I very much enjoy those. But when you get near the black hole, the amount of gravity, it's like simply on Earth, gravity is stronger at the sea level than if you are on Mount Everest because you're further away from the center of gravity. Black hole, same thing, except it's exponentially stronger. So what happens is literally if you were feet down towards the black hole as you approach the event horizon, your feet would be pulled away from you. You would actually literally turns into spaghetti of molecules.
Yeah, I mean that's the term, spaghettification.
Now, turns out, doing a Wikipedia, but in theory, for a supermassive black hole, which Kip Thorne said this is what this is.
Yeah, Gargantua is that.
Yeah, you can the event horizon, which is basically that's the area of space where we don't know anything that's inside it. Basically, that's definitely point of no return. It can actually be larger than when spaghettification occurs, is according to Wikipedia. So I guess I can buy that, but that for some reason of all the other because clearly the movie was trying for scientific accuracy, and that part for some reason that bugged me the most. I was actually okay with everything inside the black hole, but you go ahead.
Well, I mean, that my big problem with that was how he was basically saying that love was the driving force behind that, which I don't like because that it changes the dynamic of the entire movie for me. And also, I had a real problem with him communicating brand new quantum data from within the black hole to Murph in Morse code through a watch.
That's how all quantum data is passed.
But it's first of all, that would take a lot of time to do.
Yep.
Then a lot of time to decode. Then figure it out, plug it into all the equations. Basically, Murph would be spending the rest of her life just deciphering what he gave her.
Yeah. Is there even Morse code for quantum equation? Doing a derivative of this or?
I'm sure you can figure it out.
I guess so.
I assume. I don't know Morse code well enough. But yeah, that just seemed ridiculous to me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess basically I was okay with buying anything once he was in the black hole, once he survived it, because we don't know what's in the black hole, frankly. So anything actually happening in there is plausible that he suddenly instantly becomes a fifth dimensional being.
Well, you see, that's just it. He was still a three-dimensional being, but he was in a five-dimensional space. And so what he was seeing was...
but he could also see the fifth dimension. See,
Right. What he is seeing is a three-dimensional projection of what five dimensions looks like.
Yeah.
So I was okay with that. It was weird, but I was like, okay, anything like that when seen in a three-dimensional space is going to look weird.
Yes. It's I like the, it's a quick tangent, but I like their representation of the wormhole as actually a sphere.
Yeah. No, that was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a really cool idea, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, so going back into the black hole, having three-dimensional, trying to show five dimensions in
three-dimensional space.
Three-dimensional space is interesting. And, it makes sense from a storytelling standpoint, saying, here's you could look at past, you can actually touch it for some reason.
You can't actually touch it. You can manipulate the gravity within it, which is kind of,
and that's why he uses.
Which is why he was using gravity to give her the location for NASA. It's how he was able to use gravity to knock the books off the shelf.
Okay, so gravity is a much bigger factor in that universe than I thought it would be, actually.
Yeah.
Which makes sense now because that's why they're around a freaking black hole, even though, odds are you would find hospitable planets not near a black hole. But anyway, that's a whole different thing.
I mean, that's where the wormhole dumped them off.
Yeah.
So.
this is a very small nitpicky thing, but I wished that when he was in that fifth dimensional world, you actually saw every permutation of her life, because that's kind of what she's looking at.
Well, I mean, that I sort of felt like he could have if he wanted to, but he was focused on her as a child because that was his memory of her.
Okay, but still, like, when you're looking down this array of time, each of those actually technically should be a different combination or permutation of that moment in time.
And they probably are, but
but at least when I saw it, it was all the exact same thing. It was just copied over.
Well, I mean, what we were seeing was just like his perspective from behind the books. Mm-hmm. So from that point of view, it would all look the same in every permutation. It's what's beyond that would be different.
Okay. Yeah, I thought there was some scenes where, you know, the camera kind of looked towards the side and you could see like a more bird's eye view of the scene and stuff. So anyway, it's possible. It's a weird. Yeah. Again, this is all very hypothetical stuff, and
well, I mean, the whole movie is hypothetical. We've never actually encountered a black hole.
True, very very true. Although I heard we're actually getting very close to actually taking a real picture of one.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I forgot what it was, a Slashdot or Engadget article that I read, but one of the newer telescopes out there, they're going to try to, you know, look into the alleged supermassive black hole that's in our Milky Way galaxy.
Okay, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I thought the time dilation stuff was really cool. I think it's a good narrative. It's fun to play with that.
I love the concept of time dilation, and I think Christopher Nolan uses it very well. He did it very well in Inception as well, with all the different dream levels and how time dilates between those.
Oh yeah.
And so it's clearly something of fascination to him. Mm-hmm. So I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, I thought it led to some really, really, really good emotional scenes, like the first time Matthew McConaughey gets back onto that ship after being on that title planet for 23 years, and to watch the progression of his kids grow up so fast.
Yeah.
His reaction, I thought, was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought that his performance in that scene was just heartbreaking and perfect.
Yes.
Because basically, like, he has missed his children's entire lives, and he's seeing it in fast motion through these video blogs.
Yes, and you see the progression of the bitterness of the kids, and then to suddenly get Jessica Chastain's character pop in just like that, that's a whopper of it.
It really
is.
There. It really was. It was a huge impact, and I thought that scene played out beautifully.
Yeah. That's probably one of my favorite scenes. Mm-hmm. And then for me, the ending where McConaughey's character meets a much older Jessica Chastain's character.
He was actually
Murph.
Ellen Burstyn at this point.
Right. That worked great for me as well.
You see, I had a problem with that because she kicked him out, like, almost as soon as he saw her. And I'm like, you've been working your entire life for this moment. You're like, okay, see ya. Okay, thanks, bye.
Well, you got to have a quick little ending, I guess. You have an ending quick. I actually, and maybe this is, I probably just can't do the math, is I was actually more concerned how Anne Hathaway's character hasn't aged when she got to that other planet.
Yeah.
Compared to the time frame that Matthew McConaughey and Murph's are.
Well, yeah, this is sort of the thing that, and they don't really explain it too much, but I mean, there was dilation, of course, when they're doing the slingshot around Gargantua, which they both would have been a part of.
Yes.
And so it's entirely plausible that while 100 and some odd years may have passed for Murph and everybody, it's just been a matter of like hours for Anne Hathaway, because once she gets out of that slingshot, he's he goes into the black hole. He's technically outside of our timeline at this point. He can come and go wherever he wants.
That's true. Right.
So I mean that's sort of where we get into we can't get into the whole or we can't really figure out like specifically how much time has passed or what.
Right. It's kind of like when it just gets to the point. It's the same thing like trying to truly dissect Inception of the timelines. There comes a point where it's just not worth like trying to map it out exactly. At least from my point of view, I've learned, and this kind of goes more broader about Christopher Nolan stuff is, while watching his movies, it's usually visually invigorating, and there's moments where it's like, oh, this is awesome. But the moment you step out, the more and more I've watched more of his movies is, you know, a lot of his logic doesn't seem to make too much sense.
Yeah.
And so I've just gotten used to that, where it's like,
yeah,
it's his work is very much like sleight of hand, but underneath it all, there's very little, aside from The Dark Knight probably has, you know, in terms of true emotional impact, very few. Like I would love to rewatch The Prestige because I feel like it's a very underrated movie of his.
I agree. I actually just watched The Prestige for the first time a couple months ago.
Oh, interesting.
And
I remember this whole conversation. Everyone was yelling at you.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember the only thing that bugged me at the initial watching it was the only thing that was preventing it from being great was neither of the two main characters were actually likable.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
It's hard to root for either one. It was kind of interesting. It was an interesting way of storytelling, but
like I feel like between the two of them, I was rooting a little bit more for Christian Bale's character, but it was by a matter of degrees, really.
Right. So yeah, I mean, so overall, like for Interstellar, there's some good ambition there. The space stuff is nice. I like the time travel stuff, even though you know, being Doctor Who fans, I think like this is always unfair for any movie that tries to do time travel. Is I feel like Doctor Who's been able to storytell time travel in a much more interesting way, in a much more sophisticated way. That anything they do with time travel, I'm like, meh, I've seen that before.
Yeah, it all depends on. Looks like Rovandir's leaving because of computer problems. Goodbye, Rovandir. Bye. What was I saying? Oh, we were talking Doctor Who. Like, yeah. I sort of feel like with Doctor Who, I mean, I don't want to get too sidetracked on Doctor Who. I feel like there are elements of the time travel in it that work very well, and then there are others where I'm kind of like, oh, that's just silly. But you sort of take it as it comes with Doctor Who, because I mean it rarely takes itself all that seriously. This past season, notwithstanding.
Right.
This past season, it took itself way seriously, like to the point where it was not fun to watch.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought Interstellar, like having stepped back a little bit. I can enjoy it for what it was, and not nitpick it to death.
Yeah, like I said, I'm cool with the scientific accuracy issues with it because it's storytelling. It's cinema.
Yeah.
I had more issues with characters.
I feel bad that Jan isn't here in the chat because he's the big Christopher Nolan fan.
Right, he's not here to defend.
Yeah.
Although I guess he just defends the Dark Knight trilogy. Or does he defend all Christopher Nolan stuff?
I don't know. We talked about it a little bit over email.
Okay.
And I told him that the Interstellar episode was actually going to be next week, not this week.
Okay.
So,
sorry.
I feel bad now.
I request
this is all your fault.
Change. Sorry. Time travel. What happens, you know? Yeah, it's crap, I forgot what I was going to say. I don't know if I was allowed to say that word.
That's okay. You get one.
Okay. Darn, used it up. Yeah, I guess the running time made it not quite worth it. It was a pretty long movie, and especially knowing that I'm about to watch Hobbit 5 Armies, and I know that's going to be probably at least 3 hours.
It's coming in at about 2:38, I think.
Oh, okay.
Which means we're going to have like a 4-hour extended edition.
Oh, good. Good grief. Anyway, it's just one of these, like, I don't dig these 3-hour long movies sometimes.
I like them when they're done well.
There has to be a reason why it's got to be 3 hours long.
Yeah.
You know, not for the sake of making it look prestigious and like trying to win an Oscar, because that's part of the reason why he made Interstellar. I'm pretty sure it's trying to be Oscar baity.
To a certain extent. I mean, there's clearly a love for the subject matter in it, which I'm totally okay with. But I mean, like, getting back to Tolkien with like the Lord of the Rings, every one of those movies had to be like 3 hours long because there was so much going on.
Yeah.
And so as a result, it doesn't feel like a 3 hour movie. Even the extended editions, I feel, go by very quickly.
Yeah, I would agree for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I haven't rewatched the extended ones in a while, but yeah, the first Lord of the Rings movies, you know, those I felt were very well paced.
Yeah. You know, and especially Fellowship. And I know like this sort of raises contention among other fans, but I sort of feel like Fellowship is the most tightly paced of all the movies.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
And I also feel like it's the most self-contained of any of the movies, because it's got a beginning, it's got a steady build up, it even has a climax, it's got a bit of a denouement, and I wouldn't say a cliffhanger, but it leaves you hanging knowing that there's going to be more. But if there wasn't any more, I think I'd have been okay with that ending.
Right. It does feel more like end of a chapter.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Type of feel to it So, but yeah, you know, it's like I said, like some people said, you know, if this helps invigorate people into going back to Interstellar, that they want to go into space, or write more stories of space and whatnot. I mean, this would not be in my. I don't know if it's in my top 10 of. I don't really have a top 10 greatest space movies of all time.
Or I do.
Oh, okay.
I love space movies. I won't list all of them, but like, I mean, I love 2001 for the visuals. Storytelling is very weak and weird for me.
But that's Kubrick, though.
That's Kubrick.
What he does.
And I realize that's Kubrick, but I feel like the book explains a lot more than the movie does.
Okay. You've read the book. I still haven't read the book, so.
Well, what's weird with 2001 is Arthur C. Clarke was writing it in tandem with the movie. It wasn't a straight adaptation.
Weird.
Like, he wrote the movie and the book together. And in the book, he explains a lot of what's going on screen.
Gotcha.
And everything makes more sense.
That'll be interesting.
The whole Stargate scene, makes sense in the book.
I mean, I kind of like the whole, like, it is unexplained aspect too. That's the impression you get from watching 2001 without any knowledge about it.
Yeah.
And that's, some people call it, like, you know, it's part of the quote unquote magic, I guess, of storytelling.
Yeah.
And that, you know, people who want not to get overly philosophical about it, but the whole, like, science is really hard and cold, and then there's unknown things we don't know about that can never be explained.
But you see,
and there's a wonder about it.
But you see, I sort of feel like that's where science is at its best, where it's trying to figure out the mystery. And that's why I like the Odyssey series, especially the first two, because that's where they really explore what the monolith is, what it's doing here, what is its goals, and it really does sort of like it paints a very good picture of what it is, and what it's doing, and it actually like makes sense and is still a very grand story. Even when you bring science into it, and I mean that's why I loved Cosmos, because it was all about like how science loves exploring the mystery, and because that's the great thing about the universe, is that the mystery is never going away. We are never going to figure everything out.
Right, at least not in my lifetime.
No, not in anybody's lifetime.
Like,
we've at least got to become fifth dimensional beings first.
Yeah,
which is a long way off.
And I think mathematicians posit that there might be 11 dimensions. Frankly,
I've heard the 11 dimension theory. It's mind-boggling, but yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. You talk about like describing things, and so this is kind of a tangent. I read this article that talked about interesting thing about, in terms of pop culture and in movies, how we've had to explain science in the last 20 years. So the example they gave was Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
How they explained the whole magic. How did you make dinosaurs? Well, you have this cartoon character and explains, oh, you know what? Mosquitoes can bite the dinosaurs, take their blood. The blood gets preserved in the amber. Blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. The article was like, if in this internet age, that would have been slammed.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes.
Yeah. And rightly so. It's a ridiculous idea.
Right, but
I'm still along with. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I still go along for the ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting balance that storytellers have to do between, well, because the way Spielberg did it in Jurassic Park, it was full of personality and fun.
Yeah, he did it as like a cartoon.
Right. And so, yeah, you go along for the ride because you trust, the writer for it or the storyteller.
Yeah.
Versus here, in Interstellar, they're so focused on the scientific accuracy. Sometimes you wonder, did it get in the way of the storytelling? Because
I don't think so. Because, at least with Jurassic Park, the hard science is not the story. The story is it's a survival story. Mm-hmm. How you get there is more of a device.
Gotcha.
And I mean that's the problem. That is like the line that you have to sort of straddle as a writer, especially when you're doing something sci-fi.
Right.
You need to put enough science in there that it at least sounds plausible and doesn't pull people out of it too much.
Or you just have to go all the other way, just saying, you know what, all this is just science gobbledygook. Just go along for the ride.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now Temple's making a good point. I have certain limits when it comes to faulty science in movies. I still refuse to watch Lucy because the whole using 10% of our brains thing was disproved decades ago. And I am 100% with you there, Temple. There is like a certain level of of plausibility or deniability.
Right.
When it comes to science in a movie, but you also don't want to overthink it. Like the example I use is when I was writing my book Ben. It involves time travel, and so I had to try to come up with like some sort of time travel device. And as I was like piecing it out and trying to put it together, I was like being very hard on myself and began to realize that I was not going to be satisfied with this unless I literally invented a time machine. And I'm like, okay, I need to stop. I need to just like create something that looks cool and is at least somewhat plausible. I mean, like we've had ridiculous time machines in movies in the past. I mean, like even Back to the Future, which is a cool movie, but come on, a DeLorean is a time machine.
Absolutely. It's science.
Right. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, why does it have to hit 88 miles per hour? That's a very weird and arbitrary point.
It's actually funny because, in Asia, in Chinese culture and maybe other Asian cultures, 8 is a lucky number.
Ah.
So, I don't know. It knew ahead of time the Chinese overlords.
Right.
That are taking over as a superpower.
Right,
it
exactly.
knew.
This is why I have you on the show. I'm getting ready for it.
Although technically I'm Taiwanese, but anyway. So.
Whatever.
Yeah. But, sorry, where were we going with this conversation?
I really don't know. We were talking about faulty science in movies, or...
Yeah, it's for storytelling and as a writer, you learn about these things and you try to follow them you want, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be possible, it just needs to be plausible, and more importantly, plausible in that universe you created. So you have to be consistent with your sciencey science.
Yeah.
And then for, the audience is willing to go along for that ride no matter how much of the stuff you just kind of washed over or whatnot.
Yeah. And that's sort of like where it kind of falls apart for me a little bit with Interstellar, because they spent so much time hyping up how scientifically accurate this movie was. And so it almost felt like a bait and switch a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of unfair that for the first 2/3 of the movie, up to the point of the black hole, and then obviously we have different quibbles about scientific accuracies of that part.
Right.
But nevertheless, that's kind of the part in the movie, and beyond that, because some people, they're probably pissed off about the whole, oh, he's alive in the black hole part.
Right.
There's that inconsistency right there, that the first two-thirds is so gung-ho about maintaining accuracy, scientific accuracy, and yet that last third, they just, wash it away.
Now, everybody in the chat now is talking about Jurassic World.
Oh, okay.
And talking about, like, why on earth would somebody create a hybrid dinosaur, which is what they show in the trailer, which I heard is called a V-Rex, as in a hybrid Velociraptor T-Rex.
Yes. Yes.
And as ridiculous as that is, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that.
I'm so in. If that is true,
I am willing to enjoy the ride that will be Jurassic World.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like Ava was saying earlier, don't hate on the DeLorean. I'm not hating on the DeLorean. Like, it's, as a time machine, it's a ridiculous concept. Mm-hmm. But the way it looks is freaking awesome.
Yes, and it makes sense in that universe.
Yeah,
and the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, whatever. As long as everything remains kind of tongue-in-cheek, I'm down with it, because, I mean, why would you cast Chris Pratt as your main character, even though some people were kind of bummed that the trailer showed him as all very serious and
I mean, he looks
really
like,
should be just, like, be smirking the whole bloody time.
Which, for all I know, may be the case. Like, we've just seen, like, some of his more serious scenes.
Yeah.
Because you can't have Chris Pratt in a movie and not have him do something tongue-in-cheek.
Right, I mean, he obviously is a very good actor. He probably could do drama. It's just,
I like Temple's suggestion. If you're going to make a hybrid dino, why not go for a herbivore? That is a terribly good point, Temple.
Yeah, you might as well experiment with the most cuddliest and the most...
Yeah, like, I mean, if you're really going to, like, make hybrid dinos, do it with something small and something that isn't going to eat you.
Right. Go to something possibly small or slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, no, we're going to combine a T-Rex and a Velociraptor because...
What could go wrong?
Because we're all mad scientists here, damn it.
Yes. Someone dared me to do it, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm getting a free burger out of this, people.
Yeah, well, there we go. Free burger. Let's unleash hell on... on unsuspecting tourists, because I'm getting a free burger. So we are coming up on an hour, and we do need to sort of keep this one a little bit shorter than usual. We usually like to go an hour and a half, but this time I'm leaving to be in a Christmas show, so I need to get all ready for that.
I mean, this is not your attire for...
Well, I'm wearing my fancy pants.
Oh, okay. You're...
Everything else I'll put on when I get there. Okay, I stole the One Ring now saying, gosh, now I'm getting flashes of tribbles and hybrid dinosaurs. I think you just
Hybrid tribble.
Tribble dinosaurs.
So...
Jurassic Park 5, we just got it right here.
Yes. And that's how you mash in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek world in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
boom.
Everything's just a mashup.
Blockbuster.
People. Everything's a mashup. Come on.
Blockbuster right there. 100 million opening weekend. Yes. We got it.
Tyrannotribble Rex.
Tyrannotribble Rex.
There you go.
I love it.
That's it. That is it.
So next week, we're going to be talking more about different adaptations. This week we are focusing on space, of course, because our book of the month is The Martian, which I really loved, and I hope that you all like it too. Another thing that I should mention, and I was saving it for the end of the show, is that if any of you have been checking out The One Ring over the last couple of weeks or so, you may have noticed that we're putting together a little shindig. We're putting together our one last party, which will be on February 21st. The URL that you see there is for our Indiegogo campaign, which is not so much a fundraiser as it is a way for you to buy tickets to the party. Um, and also, if you're unable to afford tickets, but you're unable to make it to LA to attend the party, you can still participate in some ways, and you can contribute at different levels. You can pledge at different levels and get lots of cool, fun things. Like, let me bring up our list of perks here. Um, there's so many cool things. You can get T-shirts. At certain levels, you can get our goodie baggins, which is the goodie bags that we will be giving to every attendee of the party. You'll be able to get one of your own. And of course, you can also get tickets. You can get tickets and T-shirts. You can get on screen. You can be an on screen guest for Happy Hobbit or Torn Tuesday. There are lots of different things that you can do to contribute and to help us put together this fantastic, wonderful last hurrah party that we're going to be doing here in Hollywood, February 21st. It's going to be a party of special magnificence. We're really looking forward to it. We really want to make this happen. So any way that you can help to contribute to make this party happen is totally worthwhile and appreciated. And also, we would just love to see you at the party. Anybody who went to or saw pictures of our last Big Hobbit party from 2 years ago saw that we put together some pretty amazing parties, and this is the last time that we're going to be doing this because there are no more Middle-earth movies after this. So we want to go out on a high note. So I hope that you'll be able to purchase tickets if you can. You'll be able to join us. You'll be able to contribute in some way. The One Last Party is here. You can find us on Indiegogo. That's the whole URL there. I've posted links to it on our Facebook page and on our Twitter. And you can also just go to Indiegogo.com and just do a search for The One Last Party, and you'll find it. So yeah, we're coming along. Where are we now? I think we're at like 20% ish. Let me see here. We're at 21% of our goal, and it is a very lofty goal. It's 180 grand. But when you take into account the fact that our previous party from 2 years ago cost $250,000, we're actually coming in under.
And you guys made that one happen, right?
We did make that one happen. There were people who floated us a loan for that, and were very kind in not shutting us down over the 2 years it took us to repay that. Which they could have done had they so wanted. So, but they believe in us as much as anybody else. So, and I know that you believe in us so much too. So I hope that you'll be able to attend the party, even if you can't afford to go. Maybe you can afford to get yourself a little swag, a little perk, and at a smaller level. And still participate in the party. Of course, we're also going to be doing a live feed from it, as we do just about every event. So yeah, that is my plug for the one party, and I highly suggest that you check it out. Contribute what you can. Pledge what you can if you're able to. Light of the King is saying she's got her tickets. That's fantastic. And
if not, spread the word.
Yeah, and yeah, post links to it on your social media. Help spread the word. Get it out. If that's what you can, if that's the best that you can contribute, that is a great way to contribute. Because the more we get the word out, the more we can get people coming. So that'll bring us to an end for this week. I want to thank Ben for coming.
Thank you for having me on.
And having this interesting conversation. I hope we didn't bore you all too much. I know we weren't
science.
We weren't talking books all that much. We'll be talking books more next week. We'll be talking adaptations, some of the good ones, some of the bad ones. There are many to choose from.
Yes.
And our book of the month is The Martian by Andy Weir.
Not to be confused with my favorite book, The Martian Chronicles.
By Ray Bradbury. No,
Yes.
different. Very different. And yeah, if you do a Google search, The Martian Chronicles still comes up first.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Well, it's only a classic.
Yeah.
I stole the one where he's saying, anybody want to buy me and my sister 2 tickets to the party? I wish I could. And again, our one last party, all the info is right there. February 21st. Help make it happen. So I will see you all next week. We'll be talking adaptations and also starting some hints as to where this show will be going at the start of next year in January. We're going to be doing a couple...
It's burlesque.
Dude!
Oops.
And so that we're going to be doing a couple format changes to the show starting in January. I'm working on the details for it, but I should have more to tell you next week. So it's not burlesque.
Darn.
Yeah. So I will see you all next week. Have a wonderful week. Keep on reading. Never stop reading. And I will see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.